I once rented a flat in Leeds, part of one of those tall Victorian terraces that had been converted into student accommodation decades before. From the street, it retained a certain dignified air, high windows, soot-darkened brickwork, wrought iron railings guarding the front steps. Inside, however, it showed its age and alterations. Walls were thin, carpets carried a faint odor of damp, and the floorboards groaned loudly at the slightest pressure. It was far from perfect, but it was affordable. And as a student, that was what mattered most. At first, it felt like any other old house. Drafty, with unpredictable plumbing, but livable. Then, winter arrived. That's when I began waking in the night, always around 3 in the morning, sitting up abruptly with my heart racing, convinced I had heard something. It was always the same, the distinct creaking of floorboards in the hallway. In a house of that age, creaks are to be expected. But this was different. Not the occasional shifting of timber, but a rhythmic, deliberate sound, like footsteps, slow, measured, drawing nearer. I asked my housemates about it, half expecting them to laugh and admit to nocturnal wanderings, but each insisted they had been asleep. Every morning, without exception, the doors remained locked from the inside. No one had gone out, no one had come in. Weeks passed, and the pattern persisted. I would wake at 3, hear the creaking, then silence. Sometimes it halted midway down the hall, other times it advanced all the way to my bedroom door. I took to leaving a lamp on at night, but the light only sharpened the shadows beneath the door. And that is where I first noticed them. Shadows of feet. At first, I dismissed it as my imagination, but the shapes were unmistakable, motionless, waiting. I could sense a presence pressed close against the other side. I never opened the door. One night, I resolved on a kind of reckless courage. I sat upright in bed, blankets drawn tightly around me, and waited. Just after 3 o'clock, the floorboards began to sound. Creak, pause, creak. Closer and closer, until they stopped directly outside. I fixed my gaze on the narrow gap beneath the door, that slim band of light where shadows reveal what stands beyond. The feet were there, as before, 2 solid, unmoving forms. But then something changed, a detail that chilled me utterly. The shadows descended. Slowly, deliberately, they sank downward until they lay stretched flat along the floor. Whoever, or whatever, was outside was no longer standing. It was lying there, listening. I did not sleep that night. I'm not sure I even blinked. I remained frozen, locked in a silent confrontation with the space beneath the door, waiting for the shadows to stir again. Only with the first pale light of morning did they vanish. After that, I stopped trying to explain it away. Some nights I slept in the library. I began carrying my keys at all times, even inside the flat. Still, the footsteps returned, sometimes faint, sometimes heavy, always around 3, always pausing outside my door. When my lease finally ended, I nearly said nothing to the landlord, but as I was leaving, I mentioned it almost offhandedly, half in jest, half in earnest. He did not laugh. He grew pale.
Which room were you in?
When I told him, his expression tightened. He explained that before the building was divided into flats, it had been a single residence. In the 1950s, a man who lived there had been found dead in the hallway, lying face down, stretched out on the floor, just outside what later became my bedroom. They never determined why he was lying there, or what he had been doing in his final moments. I moved away, began anew in another city, but even now, years later, if I wake in the quietest hours of the night, I hold my breath and listen, because sometimes, in the stillness, I could swear I hear it once more. The slow creak of footsteps, the pause outside the door, and then that faint, dreadful shift of weight as something lowers itself to the floor. Like and follow for more.